What is up, you guys? This is Julian, or you can call me JP, representing JP Fitness. I just made 2 videos in the last week. One of them is on negative training. The other is on 3 very common gym mistakes that I see all the time. Please go check them out on my channel. Today's video is on stability versus instability and how does this affect strength, hypertrophy, and endurance. Okay, starting with strength, the main thing is you want to increase your 1 rep max. Let's take an overhead press, for example. You've seen people do it at the gym. They pick up a weight, they're pushing it overhead. It could be a bar or dumbbells. Now, sometimes you'll see people standing, sometimes you'll see people sitting. Well, what's the difference? When you're sitting down, you have a better transfer of energy from the ground up. For example, you're sitting down, you're pushing against the ground to push the weight up. Think about it. If you didn't have a ground, if you were in space, you wouldn't be able to do that. If the weight was greater than you, you'd move away from the weight. Now, on the other hand, think of when you're standing up. If you're standing up, you're not going to be able to move as much weight as when you're sitting down. Why? It's because you don't have as much of a stable base. You have to create your own stable base. You can still move a lot of weight standing up for the overhead press, but it's not going to be as much, again, because you have to create your own stability. When you do it, you have to squeeze your glutes, you have to squeeze your abs, your transverse abdominis. You have to brace really hard, keep correct posture, not leaning back excessively. Any little imperfections are like energy leaks. You're not going to have a good transfer of energy from the ground up through to the barbell. Nobody's perfect. So even athletes at the greatest levels are going to be able to push more weight sitting down than they are standing up. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it standing up. Again, think of strength athletes. You've seen strength athletes pick up the Atlas stone off the ground, a big Atlas stone, and then they usually put it over a bar for a few reps or something. Or they do the log carry where they pick up couple hundred pound logs and walk with it. Again, if you're always doing exercises where you're sitting down, like a sitting down overhead press, you're doing bench press, you're doing leg press versus a squats, you're not going to have a strong core to be able to do those really heavy lifts. So if you want to push a lot of weight in exercises like the deadlift, the squats, things like that, where you have to be up on your feet with good demands on your core, you need to do those types of exercises and not the exercises that are more stable. You need to create your own stability with your core, not with a bench because you're sitting down. Now on to number 2, muscular hypertrophy. That's a little bit tricky word, but all that means is hypertrophy is to gain muscle. This one you can do sitting down exercises with if your goal is to gain muscle. But again, think about it. When you're sitting down versus when you're standing up, what's easier? It's usually, I mean, you'd have to be an odd person, a little bit different, but it's almost always easier sitting down than it is standing up. Again, because there's greater musculature that you have to use as a person to be more stable versus sitting down where you have to create your own stability, and if you don't, you're going to be unstable. But if you're sitting down, you automatically get the stability, and you're never unstable, really, at all. So you might be able to move more weight, but again, doing exercises with that little bit of stability requirements from you that you'll be unstable if you don't brace your core and squeeze your glutes are going to create a greater amount of intensity. They're going to make the exercise harder. And intensity is one of the main drivers in eliciting those anabolic hormones from your endocrine system to create muscular hypertrophy. Because that's the whole goal with muscular hypertrophy, is targeting and trying to release those anabolic hormones in your body from the endocrine system. And if you're picking exercises that are easier because you want to sit down and move weight, yeah, you might be able to move more weight, but to your body, it's easy. So maybe have a balance in there. Yes, when you sit down, you are isolating that specific muscle more because no other weight's being shifted anywhere else. You've seen bodybuilders sit down on a machine and then do chest press sitting upright. Due to the way the machine's built, they can do a chest press like that. You might be targeting specifically the chest more, but again, overall, it's easier. So you could mix them up. You could start off with an exercise that requires greater stability, like let's just say a barbell squat, a back squat. And then once you do a few sets of that, 4 or 5 sets, then you can move over to a leg press, which requires less stability from you. The bench itself is giving you more stability. On to the third one, muscular endurance. This is the one where I would almost say you should, in my opinion, you should almost never do things that require, that don't make you unstable in some level. For example, I don't think people who are training for muscular endurance should really do ever leg press, leg extensions. Do you know how there's certain machines at gyms that target your core? Pointless. Things like that, they should almost never do. To me, again, they're pointless. If your goal is muscular endurance, a lot of almost every single endurance activity you do, running, swimming, soccer, again, if you want to go on a lighter level, jogging, jump rope, those all things are muscular endurance in a certain sense when you're doing them, cardiovascular fitness too. But if that's your goal and you're training things like leg press, you're not activating your core at all. I mean, you are on some level, but it's so minuscule that it's not a very efficient way to train muscular endurance. You're trying to recruit muscle fibers over a long period of time. It's lower intensity, lower power output, but over a greater period of time. And I don't see, if someone's training for endurance for some type of sport, I don't see how a leg press or leg extensions or things like that can transfer over to those sports efficiently. And I'm not saying pushing exercises aren't good, but why not do a squat instead of a leg press? Why not do lunges instead of a leg extension? You see what I'm saying? There's no point of doing like a sitting down overhead press when you can do it unilateral with one arm standing. That's a better way to do it. And those are the three of those right there. But one last thing, to tie them all together, the main thing is we are people and we are humans. Regardless of what your goal is, if you're a strength athlete who picks up big stones, if you're a bodybuilder, or you train muscular endurance for soccer, or you do it because for baseball or something, regardless of what you do, just remember you're a person. You do things every day that people have to do. Pick things up off the ground, pick up groceries, you have a job, you move around your house, you clean up your house, things like that. If you cannot properly and safely pick things up off the ground without bracing your core, if you're doing it like that and you have chronic low back pain because of these problems, it's not good. It's not good. So just know, again, you should be functional as a human being. So if you train strength and you never do anything functional at all, you just never do. You do things that are always sitting down, and the things like you might do a back squat, that's probably the only thing you do that's uses your core, but you don't stretch, you don't do anything that makes you a little bit unstable, that requires you to generate your own stability. You might have problems later on in life. I mean, what is strength if you're walking around like this with hunched shoulders, you have shoulder impingement, and your low back's hurting all the time? To me, at that point, it's pointless and it's not worth it. Everyone has their priorities, but again, same thing with bodybuilding. If all you do is trying to target the prime mover because you want to get big and you never do anything functional. Again, you could focus on these, but if you never do anything functional as a human being, you're going to have a lower quality of life, and then later on when you're done with your sport and you're retired, you're going to really suffer. So again, you can still achieve great goals, but remember, life's about balance. Really focus on this. Think about what you're doing in the gym on a deeper level. Again, I appreciate everything. Please, I will warn you, come back to my next video, because if you don't, I'm going to have to hit up the boy Scorpion. He will mess you up. I mean, he's a ninja. Look at him. He's pretty badass. Rest in peace, Funk Volume. Again, they're dead now. But if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. But until next time, peace.